Origin gents, welcome to UX and this is Will India and Pakistan go to war over Kashmir? By channel TLDR News Global.
Is brought to you by Ground News. On Tuesday, gunmen killed 26 people in Indian-administered Kashmir, the region's deadliest attack against civilians for years. Tensions in the region, which is disputed and partially controlled by both India and Pakistan, are long-running, but the attack this week breaks a period of relative stability and is notable for its scale and targets. With India pointing the finger at Pakistan, relations between the two nuclear-armed neighbours have collapsed, raising fears of a fresh conflict between them. So in this video, we're going to explain the attack in Kashmir, India's significant response.
It's not just pointing a finger, right? Indian intelligence agency RAW has been getting a lot of, intel about how Pakistan is funding this terrorist organization, right? One of the previous Pakistan minister in an interview came out and said like Pakistan for decades now has been funding this terrorist organization who can attack in India, right? Like how much clear you want, right? Like I said, you threw all those Mexicans into some jail without due process because they were coming after your jobs. They are killing people in India. What is India supposed to do?
And explore the potential for it to escalate into a military clash. Don't feel overwhelmed by endless news stories. Find out what you need to know every day with TLDR's Daily Briefing. Listen along. We're going to start with a recap of Tuesday's deadly attack. On the 22nd of April, gunmen entered a meadow near the town of Pahalgam, a popular travel destination in Indian-administered Kashmir, and opened fire on tourists and sightseers, killing at least 25 Indian citizens and one Nepali national. The terror attack has rocked India, not just due to the high death toll, but also because of the targeting of civilian tourists rather than security forces. The region's chief minister said the attack was, quote, much larger than anything we've seen directed at civilians in recent years. It prompted Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to cut short his trip to Saudi Arabia, while his defence minister vowed a loud and clear response to those behind the attack.
Use any clips, man. Okay. Like I said, like imagine if this shit happened to US or any other country, what would be your response, right? Every time people are like, oh, look at that Indian-Pakistan war again. Oh, like it just happened. No, it just didn't happen. It's been happening for multiple years. Things were boiling. Like look at the foreign minister of India constantly saying things in past multiple years in every interview. Like Pakistan needs to stop funding terrorists. That's the quote he's been saying. He didn't suddenly realize and saying that. This terror attacks has been rising in multiple years, in past, 5-6 years, right? And this is not the first one. This shit is insane, man. They literally held people at gunpoint, asked them to recite Islamic verse, and if they couldn't, they shot them in front of their wives and family. Are you listening? What is this? Die Hard? You understand this? Right? This is not some small shit.
A relatively little-known group called the Resistance Front, or TRF, has reportedly claimed responsibility for the attack, with social media posts quoted by Reuters as expressing anger at demographic change in the region, spurred by the settling of 85,000 outsiders. TRF has carried out a number of deadly attacks since it became active in 2019, and it's considered by India to be an offshoot or front for the Pakistani-based militant group Lashkar-e-Taiba, which seeks to bring Indian-administered Kashmir under Pakistani control, and was responsible for the 2008 Mumbai attacks that killed 175 people. Pakistan itself condemned and denied any involvement in this week's attack, but India has targeted Pakistan in retaliation, accusing it of supporting cross-border terrorism. Now, before we go any further, we're going to need to go back.
Like I said, why doesn't terrorists attack from Sri Lanka or Indian Ocean or from Burma or Western India? Why is always from Pakistan's border? If you and I sat home and there was a similar wall there was a door that always is open, and I'm sitting on my sofa and always somebody runs in and punches me in the face and runs away, I'm going to blame you because he's coming from your house, right? In the end of the day, you have to take some fucking responsibility, especially when I have intel that you are actually, funding them, supporting them do this for a geopolitical reason. This is some next level shit, man, right? Do you understand? If there is literal some hard concrete proof, if India gets, that's a total blown out war, right? Pakistan is risking that. Using terrorism to get your geopolitical, goal, that's next level shit. Pakistan has been doing that for a long time. Raw has been getting a lot of intel like that, right? So this is just insane. All minister has been constantly saying, don't fund, terrorist organizations, then we'll talk, right? There have been always aggressive comments like that from Indian ministers. And this shit happens. Of course, it's going to boil over, man.
Back in time to understand the background to the conflict in Kashmir and between India and Pakistan. The partition of the Indian subcontinent in 1947 established two neighbouring countries, Hindu-majority India and Muslim-majority Pakistan, but left the Muslim-majority princely state of Jammu and Kashmir to decide its own fate. The state's ruler delayed the decision, initially considering independence, but later agreed to join India in return for help against tribesmen invading from Pakistan. This sparked the Indo-Pakistani War of 1947-48, and the subsequent boundary between the troops became the de facto border, known as the Line of Control, between Indian-administered and Pakistan-administered Kashmir. Meanwhile, China has controlled eastern parts of what was the princely state since the 1950s, with said areas also claimed by India. India and Pakistan went on to fight further wars over Kashmir in 1965 and 1999, though the line of control largely remained and remains the same. However, separatists seeking Kashmiri independence or unification with Pakistan launched an insurgency against India in 1989, with support from Pakistan. The insurgency continues to this day, and while a former Pakistani president has admitted the country backed Kashmiri insurgents in the 1990s, the country denies that it still does so, but says it supports Kashmiri calls for self-determination. Over the years, India, with a firm hand, has sought to bring its part of Kashmir further under governmental control. Most significantly, in 2019, Prime Minister Modi stripped the state of Jammu and Kashmir of its special autonomous status, splitting it into two federally governed territories, Jammu and Kashmir, which has a Muslim majority, and Ladakh, largely Buddhist and Muslim. Aiming to preemptively curb potential unrest in Jammu and Kashmir, the Indian government accompanied the change in status with an extended security lockdown that saw tens of thousands of additional troops deployed, thousands of people detained, and intermittent communication blackouts that cut off internet and phone services. The scrapping of the region's special status and subsequent loosening of domicile laws, making it easier for non-Kashmiris to gain domicile certificates, has sparked fear among some Kashmiris that their political power and their case for autonomy will be weakened by an influx of non-Kashmiri Hindu Indians. Modi's government justifies its approach to Kashmir as necessary to transform it for the better, by bringing security, economic...
Yeah, see, all reasoning is always, the Hindu fear of the future. Yeah, what is happening right now? Right? India is literally the last border against terrorism. Pakistan is riddled with terrorism. That's where you found Osama bin Laden chilling, if you just, if you don't remember, right? Entire Middle East is a whole terrorist haven where terrorist organizations are just walking around. Pakistan and India border is the last level. There is no terrorist cell inside India, right? And this kind of autonomous place were increasing that threat of security against India, right? So of course India was going to do this. Of course India was going to increase security there, increase troop movement there, right? Because shit like this, terrorist attack has been happening way too many in Kashmir, right? So it's like, we are afraid of our autonomous. Oh, shut up, right? This shit like this happen, then you can't really bitch about that, right? Of course India has to think about security now.
Economic development and particularly tourism, which has boomed thanks to heavy governmental promotion. In fact, a surge in footfall over the past 3 years saw tourist numbers in the Kashmir Valley reach a record 3.5 million in 2024. These tourism figures, alongside a downtick in casualties from the conflict, helped the Indian government to project strategic success and an image of normalcy for the region. Despite
Really, after seeing the graph, you're going to really say like India didn't do right? Oh, the economy is booming, less deaths, but there's still a problem. Really? In which universe?
Continued heavy security presence. However, Tuesday's attack may have shattered this illusion. So, how has India responded? Having accused Pakistan of supporting cross-border terrorism, but without publicly producing evidence, the Indian government announced a slew of measures. It downgraded diplomatic ties with Pakistan, shut the main border crossing, cancelled visas for Pakistanis, moved to expel diplomats and military attachés, and most notably suspended the 1960 Indus Waters Treaty, which regulates the sharing of water from the Indus River and its tributaries. This is significant, as Pakistan is heavily dependent on water from the river system for things like irrigation and hydropower. The treaty, brokered by the World Bank, has survived 2 wars and contains dispute resolution mechanisms, but has no provision for unilateral suspension or termination. And in response, the Pakistani Prime Minister's office said any attempt to stop or divert the flow of water belonging to Pakistan, as per the Indus Water Treaty, will be considered an act of war and would be responded to with full force. Pakistan, which denies India's
that India is not same today as India, man, right? And yeah, you literally broke the camel's back with the last straw, right? You should have seen this shit coming. I don't like this. Why should common people suffer? This is gonna affect them. I'm hoping this is like a long-term plan where some kind of agreement happens between India and Pakistan and they reopen the water or something, right? This is just fucked up for the small people, right? Common people. I know that. But India has to do something, right? Pakistan need to see like you can't fuck with India like you used to before, right? India is no longer what it was 20 years ago. And you can't really just say we have China and just project power. That shit's not going to work.
Allegations and accused the Indian government of seeking to exploit a tragic incident, retaliated by cancelling visas for Indians, closing its airspace to Indian airlines, and suspending all trade with India. On Friday, it was reported that small arms fire had been exchanged overnight across the line of control in Kashmir, and later that day, India's defence chief visited the Indian-administered territory, where the army has launched search and destroy operations, ramped up troop numbers, and deployed surveillance drones, signalling a further militarisation of the region and curtailment of freedoms. Narendra Modi has vowed to pursue the perpetrators to the ends of the earth, and to punish every terrorist and their backers. The anger in India against Pakistan, sparked by the attack, may well compel Modi to pursue a military response. Military action would not be without precedent. In 2019, a militant attack in Jammu and Kashmir killed 40 Indian security personnel, prompting the Indian Air Force to strike inside Pakistan-administered territory for the first time in decades. Pakistan struck back, and a dogfight saw Pakistan shoot down an Indian jet. In this 2019 case, India launched its airstrike 12 days after the initial attack. So if India launches a similar response this time round, it may not be for days or even weeks. There's a lot to unpack here though, with this story on Modi's vow to pursue the perpetrators reported on.
Yeah, go to original video page and from there support this channel. See, this shit is like, look man, I usually don't give opinions like that because I think this like whole border dispute, military attacks, I always think of common people, right? I always think of like, whether you live in Pakistan, whether you live in Sri Lanka, you're all the same. We all of us are human, so I don't like this shit. But there is a fucking last straw type of thing, right? This is insane. People just like going there on vacation, Hindus, who can't even recite their own religious text. Putting on them gunpoint and say like, recite Islamic words, which they know they can, and they're shooting them in front of their family. This is not some small thing. And then you get some intel, right, in your, intelligence agency, like Pakistan is behind this shit. How are you supposed to respond? Imagine if this was USA, man. How are you going to respond? This is an obvious shit, right? This has been, boiling over. And giving, Pakistan is like barely stable when it comes, like, it crashed recently, just a few years ago. Military took over. Their prime minister wasn't even like a sure thing. They were running around all over the place. Pakistan has a military, that's it. Government is like military decides, right? It could dissolve tomorrow. Because some kind of a strong terrorist organization can come and take over Pakistan. And they have nuclear weapons now. The most disastrous thing ever happened in this entire planet is to give Pakistan nuclear weapons. It's not stable. Any shit can happen in India. Indian government is not going to fall. That's how stable it is. Pakistan is not the same. So this is fucked up. If this blows over and if nuclear attacks happen, that is like a line that has been crossed. That's never going to be uncrossed for everyone on the planet. This is disastrous for everyone. This is two nuclear power, man. Right? People should have seen this shit coming. Pakistan should have prevented this. Right? Pakistan should have increased the security at the border so no terrorists cross the country. So Pakistan can't be blamed. You have a blame, man, whether you were involved or not. Right? And you're a nuclear power. India is a nuclear power. Right? You share the blame in this. Right? Whether you fund them or not. This shit is happening. Right? India has to respond. They can't just sit back. Otherwise, what message does that send? So if shit happens right now, it's Pakistan's fault, isn't it? Right, well, I'll see you next time.